Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
I'm Derek Lemaster.
This is Scream Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, go over the horror news, and we've been doing it for 5 years, guys. By the time this episode airs, it'll be 4 days before our 5-year anniversary. So, congratulations, guys. We've been watching a horror movie each week for 5 years. That's a lot. That's a lot of horror movies.
Isn't that insane?
It's wild. Derek.
Cow.
To the point we are experts.
We are
I don't know what
experts.
happened, but we're experts.
Probably on at least watching a horror movie each week and then talking about it. We're definitely experts on that. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. How about
I'm
you
like
guys?
warm chocolate on a cold day.
Okay, like hot chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay. I am like a hot chocolate on a hot day because it's hot as fuck up in the recording studio today. But I will deal with it because that's what we do to bring you the goodness of Scream Bloody Movies. Because
Nice.
guys,
5 years with no AC upstairs for Jamie.
yeah, that's not true. I had some AC some of the times. I just haven't put it in yet this year. It will be in by next episode, though. I promise you. Guys, also, this is important. This week we're doing House on Haunted Hill, 1959. So we are doing for our 5th anniversary what we started this podcast doing. If you remember, the first 2 episodes of this podcast was Pet Cemetery 1989, and then Pet Cemetery shit.
2000
I
something.
don't remember that one.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. So we did remake or original and remake. So here for the 5th anniversary, we're doing it backwards. Remake to original. Full circle, guys. So we are going to hit up William Castle's 1959 Vincent Price star House on the Hill because we got a lot to say about it, especially in comparison to last week's episode. So this week, we're not just going to go over the plot. We're not going to go scene by scene. We're going to talk about this movie and talk about the differences between these and, there's some stuff to talk about. And at the same time, there's nothing to talk about. This is one of those movies. So it's a lot of people standing in rooms talking. So, but we'll make it work. But guys, before we get into any of that, I've got a little dose of horror news. And guys, we've got to figure this out because, Evil Dead in concert is playing in 50 cities this fall. So how this works is it's live to film production. So it's the orchestra playing the score for Evil Dead in the cinemas.
Whoa.
And you guys, on October 9th, it is in Indianapolis at the Murat Theater.
Oh.
Really?
So do you guys think we should do a field trip for this?
I'm totally down for that. Oh my gosh, I'm so down.
Me too.
Sign me up.
I would. You guys know how much I love the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
You know it. So I am
gotta-
100% down.
We gotta
I'm gonna
get it in there
dress
before it sells out.
In
'cause-
goth.
Yeah. So tickets don't look like are on sale yet. But they have Evil Dead in concert. Go to evildeadinconcert.com and we will find out when these tickets are on sale, how much they are. We will book it and then we will talk about it on the show because Derek and I had the pleasure in what year was that, Derek? 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Yep.
Pretty sure it was. No, it might have been 17
I think you're right. 2017.
because
In
it was right before Clark was born, and I think it was.
Yep. In 2017, Derek, our friend Toby, and I had the privilege of seeing John Carpenter live in concert, which was an incredible experience. So in Chicago, but this will be in our backyard in Indianapolis, so we'll be able to check this out and see Evil Dead with strings. I'm super excited about this, guys. So last week we talked about Mike Flanagan's Carrie. Remember we talked about that briefly?
Yep.
Well, we got some casting news, fellas, because Heather Graham, Kate Siegel, of course, Rob Kowali, of course, and Katie Sackhoff have joined this iteration of Carrie. Now you know all of those actors, right? I mean, we know who we know who Kate Siegel is. She's in every single. She's married to Mike Flanagan. She's in all the
I
Mike
thought
Flanagan
she
movies.
was. Never mind. I can't make a joke.
Yeah,
We can
I
move
know. We've known this for 5 years.
Anyway,
And this will be Mike Flanagan. Katie Sackhoff is working with him, I think, for the first time since Oculus, right? Because she was.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Raul was in both Black Mass and the great Edgar Allan Poe Fall of the House of Usher thing they did. Which, if you guys haven't seen that, it's pretty good.
I still need to watch that.
It's good. So, Derek, this is for you a little bit. You'll get a kick out of this more than Lydia, I do believe. But they are remaking a Toxic Crusaders video game
What?
for quarter of 2023. Check it out.
When is
Alex.
when is the Toxic Avenger coming out?
It will be out here soon in the next couple weeks, I do believe. Right there. It comes out August 29th of this year. So, a couple months.
Wow.
But this should be coming out quarter 3 of this year. And it looks fun. I love, those side-scrolling beat-em-ups. And the Toxic Crusaders was very interesting because the Toxic Avenger is like a super R-rated, more than R-rated, like, splat comedy, right? Derek, correct?
Dude, I haven't seen Toxic Avenger since it aired on USA Up All Night.
That was a censored version. Yeah.
Huh?
So that, but that movie is, those movies are decidedly not made for kids. They're trauma films. But then in the 90s, they decided to turn it into a family, a kid-friendly show with the Toxic Crusaders. And I fucking actually watched this show. Not only did I watch it, but guys, I had a Toxie action figure that came with a fucking mop.
I'm pretty sure that I remember those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little Toxie with a mop.
Yeah.
It was badass. So that
Wasn't
should be
that
fun.
a cartoon?
That's what that is. The Toxic Crusaders is the cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Wild.
great. Wild
I
stuff.
love the 90s. Anyone who doesn't say that the 90s was like the pinnacle of human civilization
in the 80s.
might be right, but
yeah.
They need to be evaluated because it's awesome.
I agree.
So, guys, this is some really big news. Really big news. Texas Chainsaw Massacre rights are up for grabs. And there are several filmmakers wanting their hands on this IP. Rumor has it that names include like J.T. Molnar and Glenn Powell, which would be interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Peele, Osgood Perkins, and Taylor Sheridan all are like names that came up in trying to get like the IP for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Also, Netflix is still in the running because they licensed them for that one that came out in 2023 around there.
Yeah, I remember that field and popping out of the daisies or something.
We trolled the fuck out of that.
Yeah, we did.
We trolled the fuck because it's just a terrible shot because it's clearly just not there, and he just like appears in it.
It's funny.
It's very hilarious.
It was like such a funny moment.
Yeah, it's a great one. They're like, this will be a great trailer moment, and we're like, well, they didn't play like we wanted to. So that's interesting, right? I mean, the Chainsaw IP coming out. I mean, that would be any of those people would be interesting choices. It'd be interesting to see what Jordan Peele would do with the Texas Chainsaw IP. But I feel like Osgood Perkins' sensibility fits with it really well, and so does Glenn Powell starring in one would make it a box office smash. So there's that. And then finally, guys, this is just not huge news, but I saved it for last because it's summer. It's summer, right? And speaking of summer, next Friday, well, when this airs this Friday, June 20th at 8 p.m. on NBC, they are airing the 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Nice.
Oh, cool. 50 years, man.
50 years. And Steven Spielberg is it's going to include a new introduction by Steven Spielberg at the beginning of the movie. So that's incredible. The fact that Jaws is turning 50. Now, we've already done Jaws on this podcast. Go back and watch the episode. But I'll give you a little bit of a spoiler. We all gave it 10s because it's one of the best movies ever made. So
Yes.
you can't give it anything but. Isn't that right, guys?
That's right. That was a fantastic film through and through.
Yes, it's one of the all-time greatest. So here we go. And that wraps up the horror news. So, guys, picture it. It's 1959. There's a little director called William Castle, who is, for lack of a better word, a schlockmeister. So what William Castle did is he made schlocky B movies in the 50s and 60s, largely inspired by ghost house pictures and Alfred Hitchcock. He tried to be the American Hitchcock. He just didn't have the skill to be the American Hitchcock because Hitch is Hitch, right? But the thing about William Castle movies is when he would release these, he always had a gimmick, right? So the original 13 Ghosts, you had special glasses that you'd put on if you wanted to see the ghosts when the characters put on their glasses. For the Tingler, they had little buzzing devices built into the seats that when the Tingler got loose in the theater in the movie, it would buzz the seats. And in this one, they had a Merjo. A Merjo was a gimmick for this one, which is where a skeleton would fly out at the end of the movie when the skeleton pops out.
Really?
Yeah, these are the William Castle. This is how William Castle sold his movies, basically, with these little, with these gimmicks. So that's what he's most known for. But this movie is, but this is The House on Haunted Hill, William Castle's 1959 thriller haunted house movie, starring Vincent Price. So, Lydia,
Yes.
you picked this movie. When was the first time you saw it?
Oh, I probably saw this. I don't know. I must have been probably like a preteen when I saw this. Like, probably around Halloween time. It was on TV or something, and I don't know. My mom always just put on like scary TV on during Halloween time. My mom goes all out and decorates for Halloween, and it's part of why I love Halloween so much. Is just like all of the like immersive stuff that was happening at my house.
Of course,
So,
yeah.
And seeing like the old black and white movies just was always just special. It was just special eating Halloween candy and watching black and white movies and stuff. This one always stood out because I think Vincent Price is just one of the absolute best actors in the world. I just love him so much.
Derek, you've never seen this movie before.
Nope. I had never seen this movie before. I might have seen like clips here and there, but I've never seen this movie. At least not the one that I could recall. And just to touch on Vincent Price, man, that guy's voice is so iconic. I kept thinking when I was watching this, like, what would he have done if like movies weren't a thing? Like, he would have been a great radio host, I guess. But
he was like a passionate baker. He like loved cooking and baking. So that's
Did he really?
What he would have done.
Yeah. But no, you're right. His voice is iconic. I mean, it's in Thriller, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Because of his work in horror. That's why he, got that bit. So I saw this movie. I've seen this movie multiple times, and I can't remember if it's the very first time I saw it. I'm sure I saw it like on Halloween, but the time I remember seeing it the most, for like the most vivid memory I have of the first time watching this movie, was actually, this is crazy, in school. For some
Nice.
reason, for some reason, I don't even remember what fucking class it was, but for some reason, the teacher decided that we weren't going to do work those couple days, and instead we were just going to watch fucking House on Haunted Hill. So I
That's wild.
remember me, Andrew, and I think Morecraft were in a class together watching this thing. Me, Andrew, and Zach were in a class together watching this thing, and I remember us just being like, why are we why are we watching this? This has nothing to do with any sort of thing. We didn't mind it because we were just watching, you know, we were watching a horror movie. But
Do you remember what
for
grade you were?
yeah, we were in junior high, I think. Junior high or high school, but I think it was junior high. I'm almost
Nice.
certain it was junior high because there's actually um, a running joke that developed from this movie. So a couple things we always laughed at, the, just the chintziness of the pit, the acid pit, just made
Mm-hmm.
us laugh. Like the concept of it, but also the way the skeleton floated up from the top when he threw it in there, and it's like a perfectly obviously just plastic skeleton pops up, and it made us laugh so hard. And the fact he's like, only thing that remains is bone, and we're like, oh yeah, that looks real. So that made us laugh. But the meme, as it were, the running joke that had happened was the blind caretaker,
Yeah.
right? So when she pops up and floats away, and it just kind of fucking gets pushed on skates away,
Yeah.
cracked us up so hard. But we used to say that we were like, oh, who the fuck was that? Orville Redenbacher? Like, was that Orville
Yeah.
Redenbacher? So we laughed about that. And then Andrew went home and he had a bad dream about Orville Redenbacher. Like
Yeah.
that thing started taking over like computers. It was and it was like called the Orville virus. It started like taking over computers and shit.
Whoa, dang.
So we started cracking up about it, and we were just always like, just said that Andrew was afraid of that woman, and we'd be like Orville, and he's like, ugh. We'd throw like popcorn at him, Orville Redenbacher boxes at him and shit. But that's
Wow.
my memory of this movie. And then of course I saw it multiple times in like on TV for Halloween and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually watched it a couple years ago. I was wanting to watch like an old black and white horror movie, and this one's easy to find because it's public domain. So basically, you put it in anything, like you put it on Amazon, Google, just YouTube. You'll find this for free because it's public domain. Anybody can air it. So, guys, where do you want to start with this? What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the parents. So I was really happy, and I mentioned this to Jamie before you jumped on, Lydia. I was
Mm-hmm.
really happy that you picked this because I not seeing it and then watching the 99 version, like it was really interesting to see how these movies were the same, but also like how they diverged.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of like the story they kept was really kind of cool. Like I didn't realize they paid that much homage to the original.
Yeah.
So
That's why I had
glad
to
you
pick
did
it,
that.
because I was like, I feel like Derek really just has to see this right after. Like, this is my Halloween movie. I watch it every year. For years now, I've watched this movie every year on Halloween. Like, while trick-or-treaters are coming to the house, this is usually what I put on.
I can't wait for. I think this would be because it's not like super like intense or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this would be a really good introduction for like Clark.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah,
like, hey, here's a classic horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like we've become desensitized, but like I could kind of see myself, watching this if you are in, the late 50s, like it didn't play too bad, actually. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Good. I'm
Yeah,
so glad to hear that.
yeah. So the plots of both the 59 version, this one, and the 99 version are similar. I
Yeah.
mean, they're made 50 years apart. But there's similar beats, and so obviously the way we get to certain things are slightly different, but like the kind of layout is similar. That there is is basically the same. There's a husband and wife, a rich husband and a wife that don't really like each other, that are like kind of suspicious of the other one, is going to murder the other one. For the wife's birthday, they are throwing a party for her and inviting guests to this extremely haunted house. Now, the way we get there is kind of different, but essentially, we have the guests arrive at the party, and if they stay the night, if they can make it through the night in the house on the haunted hill, then they'll each be awarded a sum of money. And this one, it's $10,000 apiece, which was, a good chunk of change then, because he's giving away $50,000, and so we have similar characters. We have the caretaker of the house. We have like our lead in like the Nora character. We have Lance, who's different in both versions, but he's there. We have a doctor. So we have kind of like the similar characters, and then the Vincent Price character is named Price in the remake after Vincent Price. And in this one, he is not. He is Frederick, but Frederick Lauren. But we have kind of like the basic setup is the same, but the way they tell their story is completely different, obviously. In this one, it's more of a it's a 1959 movie directed by William Castle, so it's a lot talkier. But we kind of spend a little more time with the characters. The things that makes me laugh a lot, I love the opening of this movie where it's just like they're floating heads.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is so iconic to me. I love it so much. The floating heads in the darkness, and then the story, the guy's telling the story, and then you see like the house, which is a real house.
By the way, the house looks way better in this one. Way better in this one.
Yeah,
than in
it's
the
a
remake.
real house, not a giant asylum on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
Correct.
Just in case anybody was curious, I went ahead and figured out the calculation. So $10,000 in 1959 would be worth $110,000.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like he's giving away $500,000 in today's money and $100,000 a piece, which is a life-changing amount of money for people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the floating heads pop me, and then especially when we have Pritchard's head, and he's like telling the story, and then Vincent Price's head pops in, and he's like, yes, I'm inviting these people, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? I love it. I've always loved it. It's always cracked me up. And so the bits I always remembered was like the floating heads at the beginning, and then the little coffins for the guns. That's always memorable to me as well. But guys, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the plot of the movie, because in both versions, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It cracks me up because you're like, oh well, the remake, they just decided, you know what, we're going to try to make even fucking less sense. Like instead of streamlining it somehow,
yeah,
to keep it the same and then add a new wrinkle to it. I was like,
Yes.
bold choice. So essentially, the plot is for his wife's birthday, he invites 5 strangers to the party and is going to give away money if they can make it through the night. And it's at a super haunted place. Why does any of this occur?
Yeah, well, I think it's because he suspects that she is going to try to kill him at some point.
Well, yeah, but still, that is the most convoluted way that you could prove that.
Well, yeah. So like he's playing 4D chess, right? So
Yeah.
like he is setting this up so that they can, and this is where you're right, like it's a huge stretch. Like he's giving them a scenario where they would plot to kill him, and he's plotting to kill them because he knows what they're going to
That
do.
they're going to try to kill him.
And more
So-
importantly, he invites the one person that she's having an affair with at random. Like, if you're her, are you not suspicious about that? Like,
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. She has to be invited because he's part of the plan. So how does her plan even work if he doesn't get invited? It just doesn't make sense. You get into a situation where the snake eats the tail if you think about it for too long, because it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe they came up with the plan after they got invited. They're like, oh, you know, this
but they've been talking. We've been planning this for so long, and then they're like, plus how they're like, we need Nora to kill him.
Yeah.
Why? You just met this woman, and he just invited her at random. Why does she have to be the one? It's so interesting. It's such an interesting...
Because they knew she would be, like, the most frantic and scared.
I guess? But
like,
how?
Why wouldn't she suspect that there would be, like, blanks in all the guns? I guess because he did shoot in front of them, and, like,
he did shoot
the
one.
exploded.
But he said he put blanks in her gun. Because he... This is what doesn't make sense. Because he knew that they would be using her to kill him. What are we talking about, guys? None of it makes any sense.
Yep. No, I agree with you. It, for like the most part, it doesn't.
No, but it's a fun ride. It's fun to go along the ride. But literally, if you sit down with the pencil, I read the Wikipedia of this, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, reading the plot synopsis, and I'm like, okay. Like, if you read it on paper, you're like, okay, some of this makes sense, but then when you know the minute details, like, oh, he invited these people at random, but he didn't because that guy's here. But that guy needed to be there because he's working with her. So you're like, wait a minute, what? So you end up with like this scribble paper, and you're like, when they were plotting it, they're like, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. And that's the difference between Hitchcock and this director.
Correct.
You know, it's like
correct.
that this should have been completely thought out fully before.
Yeah,
executing.
Hitchcock movies are tight as a drum. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have a couple of different like subplots, like the caretaker, the guy who
Pritchard.
He truly believes, which there's never any credible evidence that this place is haunted. So like, at the end of the movie, I'm like, okay, that guy's just fucking nuts. And he used the lore of this house and the like mystique of it to like set up this chain of events that would eventually lead to his death, but not his death. The death of his wife and her
lover.
What is the male version of a mistress? Is it a misters?
I have no idea. Never asked.
Anyway.
Wild. Lover, I think it's what you'd call him. But yeah, no, it is wild.
It's only wrong if women do it, you know.
Of course, yeah. Men men can sling that meat wherever they want. But no, you're right. It's funny because Pritchard does believe that the house is haunted, and we see some things that maybe leaned us to. So here's some more funny fucking shit. So after Nora is hung, right? They find Nora hung, and they're like, well, she couldn't have done that herself. Somebody had to have murdered her. So there's a murderer in the house. You know, Vincent Price, Frederick's like, it's one of you people. They're like, oh, it's probably you because you hate her. So they do this whole, we're going to lock ourselves in our room thing. And the killer would be the one, the guilty one's the one that would come out. But why? I don't understand. But anyway, it's another nonsensical thing.
Yeah, and like they all end up coming out anyway.
All of them, all of them, every single one of them. But what's funny to me is that, so we get this ghostly scene with, the wife's body.
Yeah.
What's the wife's name in this one?
Annabelle.
Yeah. So Annabelle comes out floating in the window. The rope comes around, a snake's around her feet, all this kind of crazy shit. And then she's hanging in the room. And, she runs out terrified and everything. And then the doctor revives her. He's like, hey, it's clear now. And so she was like, when you appeared in the window, that really scared her. How in the blue fuck did she take a rope and snake it around the woman's
That
leg?
makes no sense at all. It made no,
No,
sense.
Well,
There's no
and that's when I
physically.
thought,
There's no way that rope could ever possibly do that without
no.
ghosts.
And then there's just fog. Did she just carry a fucking fog machine in to do
Right.
this like
Salem's Lot situation.
Yeah. So funny.
So
well,
funny.
that was where I thought, like,
silly.
okay, we're gonna get into. No, I haven't seen this movie, right? So I thought,
Uh-huh.
okay, this is where the actual like ghost aspect is going to take over. But then when he said that, oh, that was, it was great when you came to the window. I'm like, okay, but
It's like they were afraid to pull the trigger on the ghosts for whatever reason. Maybe because he already
apparently.
made 13 Ghosts. I don't know. When did 13 Ghosts come out in comparison to this? 13 Ghosts comes out the next year. So maybe he was just not ready to do the Ghosts yet until the next year. Then he was okay with them being real. But so because we get this kind of, all of that stuff. The fact that she has like the harness that she has, and everything, and the fact that he is the one. He's like, well, we'll tell him it was a mannequin because we were playing a trick, so we'll tell him it was a dummy because I'm the only one that held you. What? That's a terrible, stupid plan. You guys had time to plan this, and this was what you came up with? To have a woman shoot your husband in the basement, and then you were going to throw his body into a vat of fucking acid for some reason? Which we'll talk about here in a minute. Like, wouldn't you want him to be there so then you can say, look, he's dead, she shot him on accident, blah, blah. Not you want to get rid of the body. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we'll talk about that here in a second.
But also, like, in the lore, and I'm sure it might have happened, like the history of this house, like somebody died that way.
Mhm.
Why would the next thing that you do is not drain that goddamn pit full of acid?
Because they need a pit of acid, guys.
Obviously, it's a hazard. Somebody died.
The fact that he's like, oh, yes, let me show you. They died in this pit of acid, and he does the whole styrofoam fucking thing float up. But it's just perfect. It's just perfect. It cracks me up. But our characters... so here's what's funny and interesting about this one. So in the remake, the Nora character, we find... So in the remake, we have the whole asylum subplot, which isn't in here. And we have... they were all descendants of there, and their house brought them in and all that stuff. So that's sort of, that kind of makes it make more sense of why these people were shown. But also adds a whole other wrinkle that doesn't need to be there. But it's cool window dressing because the coolest stuff in the remake is the asylum stuff, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
But in this one, the Nora character, all of them are just like regular Joes that he chose at random for some reason. And, his boss calls her and says, oh, Freddie Lauren wants you to go to the house on Haunted Hill for $10,000. And so her characterization, she really doesn't even have a character. She's just scared woman. And our lead is ostensibly in this movie is Lance, who is just like, I'm going to say it, guys. He's given off Lawrence Talbot vibes. Like he pulls her, they're all walking back up. He pulls her down in the thing and shuts the cellar door. Like, oh, won't you get in here and talk? You're like, what the fuck?
Corner her. You must corner her to marry her. Yeah, for sure.
Courting was different back in the day.
Yeah, well, I think all the actors are really good. By the way, I think all the actors are really good. I think they all put in good performances. Yeah. But he is quintessential 1950s leading man guy with this. Straight shooting, talking, and he's kind of like he's the lead of the movie. Nora's the kind of damsel, pretty much, that just is there to kind of get scared and run away and such. And then the other two characters, you have the doctor, who we know is evil, but he's a psychiatrist, so that's why he's there to kind of be like, oh well, I'm bringing everyone. And then Pritchard's a drunk, so he's there. And then you have Ruth, who's just kind of floats in the background, pretty much. She gets marked by the house at one point, and then gets marked by it again, and that's pretty much her entire character.
Yeah. Yeah, she
And
doesn't
then
do like anything really.
anything. And then Lance, what makes me laugh about him a lot is like his big characteristic is just getting fucking locked in rooms.
Yep.
Literally.
That's what he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
He's locked in rooms, doesn't he? He gets locked into one room and knocked on the head, and then
It's very exciting stuff.
there's a lot. There is a. I like this movie, but there is just a lot of walking around and shit not happening,
Yeah, yeah.
and them talking about shit that happened at one point. Like, yes, the classic film technique of tell, don't show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like you get a couple of visual things, and then it's just like people not believing that those things happened, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, the scares, guys, the scares are pretty terrible. Pretty terrible in this one.
Yeah.
Even by 1959 standards, they're just not very good. Like,
Yeah.
we get Orville fucking popping up was a scare.
Yeah, I think she looks pretty creepy, honestly, though.
Yeah, and it might have worked, except for the fact that she fucking literally roller skates out of the room, and it's just...
Yeah, she rolls
There's no
away.
way anybody was afraid of that. Even in 1959, people were probably like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
People-
I had one of those moments at the end when the skeleton's coming out of the thing. Obviously, he has...
a string.
Oh,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that shit fucking pops me too, because that's hilarious. But
I mean, that's just a product of the times.
yeah, but I mean, just the scares themselves. I think that Annabelle in the windows, pretty good, pretty spooky stuff. Like the way it's shot and stuff is pretty good. That's one. The thing I will say about the movie is that's another thing I wanted to talk about is the lighting is so flat in this movie, except for in those particular scenes. There's a couple scenes where we get like, shadows on the wall, and then when the Annabelle scene, we get stuff. The rest of it is just like lit like a television, like a 50s television show. Just like you can tell they're on sets. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it looks
It's
very
flat
like,
lighting.
cardboard.
Yeah, and very like just flat light
Yeah.
and uniform light. But man, Vincent Price sells it, so you're in for it. You're like, okay, sure.
Pretty much
Even
watch
though-
that guy do anything.
Even though at one point it's just kind of you don't know where this movie's going because you're like, okay, so somebody killed her. No, we have to figure that out. Then we find out, oh no, he's alive or she's alive, and so you're like, okay, we've got to figure this out. It just all cracks me up because once we find that out, we're like, oh, we're gonna kill Freddy. She's like, are you sure she's scared enough to do it? Yeah, which is the same plan as the remake. Is they're like, oh, we're gonna, we need to scare, but instead the remake, the one thing they do better, the decision they made that was smarter, was their plan was to get anybody in the house scared enough to kill Price. Whereas in this one, they're like, we specifically are targeting Nora, who we just met fucking 2 hours ago.
She's the weak link.
It's her. It has to be. But cracks
So
me.
like this old lady is way too brave.
Yeah. She got the stuff dripped on her. She didn't even care about it.
She literally was not phased by that at all.
Pritchard's like,
She
they
looks
marked
down
you.
and just is like, what?
I think the second time she kind of got freaked out. But
did,
Well,
yeah.
that's because it's the second time, yeah.
she
But
gave
Pritchard,
two
the
shits.
best is Pritchard's like, you've been marked. The house wants you now. It's like, okay, keep drinking, buddy. You have a good one.
Yeah, which makes more sense in the second one because there actually are ghosts.
Yes. In this
Or
one,
the
like I
remake.
said, we get kind of hints that there might be ghosts, but not really, because everything is pretty much explained away by the end. I mean, there's things I don't understand how they happen. Like, so for
The
instance,
chandelier.
the chandelier. Was that the ghost, or was that something that old Doc and Annabelle rigged up? Maybe. But then we have the end. So after Frederick is shot by Nora, and then some doctor doesn't even check his pulse. He drags him over to the vat of acid. Like I said, why would you put him in the vat of acid if you're wanting to make it look like it was an accidental shooting? and then you throw the body in the acid, how are they going to prove that it was an accidental shooting, that you just didn't murder him? Because everybody else could have said, no, we didn't see that.
100%.
That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Doesn't make any
That's
sense.
true.
But how did the lights go out?
Oh, I thought it just cut away because they wanted to like.
No, because
what
you hear
No.
him struggling.
No, the lights go out because
hear
it
like
goes
a-
to dark, and we hear.
Yeah.
And so the lights go out, and then they
I
come back
assumed
on.
that they didn't want to show it because of.
No, the
It's-
lights actually go out.
I can tell you how the lights went out. It was a stagehand turned him off.
Yeah, well, in the movie, yeah. But like,
yeah.
how does that happen? The lights just go out.
It was such a theater thing. Like, I was like, oh, this is theater.
The whole ending is theater, because after they go and get Lance, who's been just walking around in the fucking walls because he's trapped again, they're like, Lance, good thing you're here to save the day. Like, I shot Frederick. I think he's dead. All right, let's go in there and check it. And then Annabelle goes in there, and we get the fucking skeleton that you guys were talking. The skeleton rises up, and it's like, you thought you could do this to me, blah, blah. It's walking around at her, and she's like terrified and screaming, and then she gets like shoved into the acid. She trips and gets shoved into the acid. And then we see Frederick emerge with like a fucking pulley system on his body that he was controlling this fucking skeleton with. It cracks me up every time. It's like, what the fuck?
So classic.
And then he gives a soliloquy to no one, and he's like, yes, you thought you could kill me, but I knew that you were going to kill me, so I killed you first.
Oh, yeah, no, I liked the dialogue because it goes, you wanted to play the game of like death, but you didn't realize I was playing too, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
But
great.
basically,
Play the game of murder.
Yeah, but you didn't know that I also was playing the game of murder. If you had known, maybe then you could have won. You're like, who are you talking to?
It's like she totally knew, because you guys had a full conversation about it over some poisoned, possibly wine or whatever, you know.
Yeah, when you were poisoned by her, and the fact that, it's the 50s, so apparently where they are, it's not legal for them just to get divorced, I suppose, without cause.
Mhm.
Because he's like, if only I had, and she's like, well, you can't prove it. He's like, one day you'll slip up and I'll be able to prove it. I think maybe he means to divorce her without her getting any of his money.
Yeah,
she probably didn't sign a prenup.
Yeah.
But
They had
I
that
mean,
back then? They probably didn't have that.
yeah, I don't know if they did. I mean, it was the 50s. They probably did. They probably did.
If it's questionable whether or not they could have even legally gotten divorced, like,
Well, I
probably
think
didn't
they-
have prenups.
I think they had prenups because prenups protect men. So I think they 100% had it. This is 50s we're talking about. Let's find out when the prenuptial agreement. Now I'm curious.
Because, I mean, if that was the case, yeah, I don't know.
When did a prenup start? Let's find out. Oh, wow. Okay, that's in America. Let's put that, because it's telling me about Egypt. In the early, okay, so prenuptial agreements have been around for a long time, but they gained popularity. They became more common in the 1980s, late 20th century and early 21st century, with significant increase in the 1980s. Early use, like I said, over 2,000 years ago. But in the 80s, women's increased participation in the workforce in the Uniform Premarital Agreement Act, which was drafted in 1983 to promote uniformity of enforcement. So, yeah, I guess it would depend. But the Uniform Premarital Agreement Act was drafted in 1983 in response to a large number of people who were getting married and then, intending to continue to pursue careers outside of the home. Basically, the 1983 act was to protect women, so that way they could still continue to work outside of the marriage home. But yeah, so he's trying to like figure out how I can get away without my money or whatever. But to be honest, I mean, he offers her $1 million to just get away. Like, if I give you $1 million, we go away, and she's like, I want all of it or whatever. And it's like, well, great relationship you guys have. Great relationship. But yeah, so the ending here is hilarious because then they come in, all the people, and he's like, "Oh, so they were trying to kill me, but I killed them first. So now we'll see what the law decides." They're like, so you brought these people so you'd have witnesses to this fact, and then you had none of them fucking witness any of it. Essentially what happened. Because guess what? Newsflash, nobody else saw Annabelle alive. After she was hung, nobody else saw her alive. So they could say, she was dead, so he might have just threw her in the vat of acid that's just fucking chilling in this basement.
Yeah. But they also saw him dead, you know.
They did see him dead. But
so
he's
got
like
a good point there.
I guess. I don't think anybody has a good point. I think this is one of the worst fucking plans in the history of film.
I think he could go up and like find her like hanging harness that she was wearing and be like,
yeah, possibly, but like it's still a horrible plan. Everything about this plan sucks.
Yeah, that's a terrible.
It's the worst plan that's ever existed.
He was like, and his like speech was like, "I'm ready for the justice system to to let me know if I'm guilty or not." Like,
yeah,
he's
I'll let
like
the justice system decide.
He's
whether I
that
committed
he was going to get away with it.
It's so fucking hilarious. And then Pritchard's like, "Oh no, 2 more have joined. Now there's 9. And you're next," he says to the camera.
Yeah.
And then, we're out of there. I haven't seen 0 sign of any ghost.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
His head.
So that's the big difference between this and the 90s movie, or the 90s version, is that in the 90s version there's 100% ghosts. We know for sure there's ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And in this one they kind of say that, like, maybe there's ghosts because so we have fucking heads. By the way, we didn't talk about the heads.
Mm-hmm.
That just pop up, which were planted by the doctor and Annabelle. We know because he mentions it.
Yep.
Which is like,
how? Specifically
how
to
did
scare.
they come up with that?
Specifically to scare Nora into shooting. That classic plan of scaring Nora to shoot Frederick.
That's why I have a rule in life: never give anyone named Nora a gun.
Yeah, that's how they're
haunted house.
So like yeah, so the caretakers are weird. They're just weird as hell. Like they're there. The fact that he grabs, so none of it makes. So when he says he grabs Nora at one point, it says, "Get out of here! He's trying to kill you," or "Come with us! He's trying to kill you," or something like that. Who's he talking about? Because they were kind of working for the doctor and Annabelle, but they weren't trying to kill her at all. They're trying to get him to kill. Like, what's he talking about? Lydia, what's he talking about? You've seen this movie a bunch of times.
Dude, I don't know. I think I've seen this movie too many times. To like the point where I was like, I don't even understand this movie at all. Like, I was like, I hope these guys like this movie because I don't know why I love this movie so much.
Because when I critically think about it, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah. I was like, man, this movie, they're probably gonna think it's stupid and boring and like doesn't make sense, and they wouldn't be wrong.
No, we definitely. I like the movie, but I definitely think it's stupid and doesn't make sense because it doesn't.
Yeah.
I like it. That's why I kind of like it because it's just like it's just off the wall. It's like, so you're trying to. I spent a lot of time, like trying to put together these pieces. Like, so were the caretakers actually ghosts? No, because everybody sees them and they leave and they've been taking care of the place for so long. Yeah. But the only ghosts, the only ghosts that she sees are the caretakers, right? I mean, that's the only apprehension she sees, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and the guy like hits his head on the I don't know.
Yeah, he gets bonked. Now I'm assuming he gets bonked by Annabelle. I'm assuming that she's the one that bonks him because there's hidden passages. Remember? They find hidden passages because he's like, it's not a ghost that did this to me; it's something else. So I'm thinking
Somebody just bonked him.
that Annabelle's the one that bonked him on the head, right?
I never
Because
thought
the
about
doctor
that.
was, well, the doctor was upstairs. The only person that it could be is Annabelle, because everybody else was sitting in the room together, the parlor.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody else
you're
sitting in
right.
the parlor.
She was
Annabelle
running
was
around
upstairs.
spying on everybody.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know why she bonked him on the head, but she bonked him on the head, and then
She was like,
the
"Get out of my
caretaker,
closet."
or it could have been the caretaker. It could have been the caretaker, I suppose.
But like, why? Why were the caretakers real people? Like this is this Scooby Doo? Like, why did they do that? Why did they
So
make
I'm
it
wondering,
real?
wonder if we're supposed to think that the caretakers maybe aren't.
I mean, well, if they are, if
But they are. They have to be. They leave and lock the door, right? I mean, that's why because they locked the door early, and they
yeah,
do that so Nora can't leave
it
because
just
Nora was
doesn't
going to
make
leave, and
any
Nora's the only
sense.
one that can shoot Freddy. You guys, it's it. That's their entire plan.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like the caretakers were purposely trying to scare the shit out of Nora for sure. Like,
Yeah,
they were in on it. Like they had
the
to
best. The best is like the creepy hand that comes around.
be. You don't just like if you're blind, that doesn't mean you stand in a dark room like this and float away.
You also don't rollerblade out. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's like levitated out of the dang room. Like it's not like that's not a normal thing to do.
Oh,
They're like,
it's so
she's
weird.
blind. Oh, she's just blind. The
Yeah,
poor
it's
woman.
so funny.
She's a ghoul, man. She's a freaking
Yeah.
ghoul.
It's so funny. It's so they didn't have to make
Or
them
you know what?
characters.
It could be. It could be that Pritchard, right, is the one who's the person. It could be that those three are actually ghosts.
Well, Pritchard's
No,
getting
I'm
pretty
just kidding.
drunk.
I'm just trying to, I don't think
Yeah,
that's the
it's-
case. Otherwise, like, how would he have been contacted? And
Yeah. It's so
I'm just
funny.
trying to make sense of a nonsensical situation.
No, there's no making sense. It just is what it is, just to go with the vibe.
Yeah.
And that's what's really funny is like I said, the other woman is like a pointless character. She's just there to be a body, I guess. But here's the thing: she's not even there to add to the body count because the only people that die in this movie are our two villains at the very end of the movie. We hear about deaths that happen, like apparently this person killed this person, and this person killed his brother, and that sort of thing. But we never see any of that. But the heads were missing, and now the heads are just appearing in her room because they put them there. So it's kind of. But what I was saying before we got sidetracked is the '90s version. There's definitely a ghost. There's definitely ghosts in the house.
Yeah.
But I would prefer, and which I kind of prefer. I prefer there to be actual ghosts in the house. That's fun. So I would prefer this movie to have done, all the stuff that it does, and then for us at the end to find out that there's actually ghosts in the house. That'd be a fun little tag. But I prefer this ending over the stupid, terrible ghost blob that I hate in all those movies of the '90s. Right?
Yeah. Like there's still something about that '90s movie that they just did not get right.
Well, it's like the ghost blob. It's the worst.
They had the opportunity to like fix several things, but they also somehow got a lot of things wrong.
Well, they had the opportunity to kind of streamline the plot, right? Because you could still had the kind of same twist happen to a degree, but make it less so like it's, like, oh, hey, so I invited these people. Like she gives him the list and he actually uses the list. Because that solves a lot of problems, right? If she supplies the list of people that he needs to invite, then she knows who they are and how they'll react.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that in both movies, the list is changed. It for some reason in the '90s movie it's changed twice. He writes a list, and then the computer erases it. No, the computer erases it, and the house writes a list.
Yeah.
So there's 3 lists technically: hers, his, and then the house's.
Yeah.
So instead of learning from the mistake of we'll just have Annabelle, the Annabelle character, make the list because then it would make sense for their plan to unfold. They're like, let's add another wrinkle to it. Because that would solve a lot of problems.
Yep.
And I think like another thing that they like left out that they didn't need to leave out was like the acid. Like acid is pretty scary, I think. I mean, I know it looks cheesy in this one, but like
no.
But like
no.
Go ahead.
No, the '90s movie was smart for not including the acid, because why would you have a fucking acid pit in your basement?
But it's an asylum, and they had like a vat that one of the girls gets like dragged into, anyways. If
Yeah,
that
but
would
it's
have
not
been
acid.
acid, it would have been
But
way
why would there be a
scary.
vat of acid in an asylum?
Well, I don't know. They got chemicals.
Why is there one in the house? Doesn't
They're
he
in there
say like
torturing people.
it just makes no sense? The acid is the dumbest. Because it's like, why is there just a pit of acid?
Yeah, I mean it's dumb, but it's still scary because it's like the most intense thing is when she is like about to fall in, and you're like, well, that's the scariest thing that's happened. It's just like this the tension
Of her
that was
about to fall in.
almost like the
It was
tension of
almost
her almost
gleaned from that moment.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
Even
so
though it's
funny.
so cheesy when she is falling into that. She like backs herself up to the acid, stumbles, notices the acid, and then like falls in anyways. Like you could have. I was like, it's kind of the scary movie thing of like them's just bones.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
just
yeah,
run the other way.
yeah, yeah. Exactly, and that's what's kind of no. That it's just interesting the way that they took like a similar story and they took them onto. Of course, the '90s one was going to be edgier and that sort of thing because it's made 50 years later and it was in the late '90s. So it definitely was going to be like harder edged and it was going to have more violence and nudity and that sort of stuff. Obviously, body count, an actual body count. But the stuff that they decided to keep, it just really cracks me up, like the fucking nonsensicalness. Instead of being like I can imagine if I was like hired to adapt this movie. They're like, hey, we're gonna do a new version of House on Haunted Hill. All right, I need you to kind of come out with the plot. And be like, okay, so we're just gonna streamline this so it just makes more sense. That's the first thing I would do. Okay, so we want these characters to want to kill him. We want him to know they're trying to kill him and one up him at the end. So we need to kind of figure that out. But how we're gonna do it, I mean, really, the fix is she makes the list. Because if she makes the list and she suggests the haunted house, then it makes sense that they have a plan. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that solves a lot of problems.
Well,
Visually.
ironically, in the remake, they went towards that path, but then they
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
fucking went in the opposite because she did pick out the haunted house. She did make the list. And then he rewrote the list, and then the ghosts rewrote the list. So they thought about it. They're like,
Yeah,
that's gonna be too easy.
that makes
It's
way
just
too much sense.
and like, what are the odds that one of the people in that list was still chosen and the rest weren't? It's not that many people. There are a lot of people in the world,
Yeah,
and like
the
one
fact that the
person
doctor
remained
is
the
there.
same.
Well,
Yeah.
like, I mean, did the I don't know how the doctor got there. That just doesn't make. He just came by himself. I guess he just decided to come. It's just so weird. Now, in this version, it makes sense that Price invited the doctor, obviously, to try to get them, you know, together. But what doesn't make sense is they're like, oh, well, he invited us, so he knows that we're on to him, like we were talking about earlier. But then, in order for their plan to work, he has to be invited. So it's again the snake eating its tail because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So, guys, that is House on Haunted Hill. What do we think about this one, Derek?
So I will say that my rating will not really reflect like my willingness to watch this movie again. Or I do think that when Clark gets a little bit older, like 8, this might be a good starter. But man, this movie it's getting a 5. And I mean, it's not. So I thought the actors were really good. And I'm not even gonna knock it because it was in black and white.
Yeah, and you actually knew that this time.
Yeah, going into it, it really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like you cannot connect enough dots to be like, yeah, that totally remotely makes sense.
It checks out.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 5.
Lydia, what are you going to give this movie?
I think I might have watched this movie in color.
Oh, did you watch the color
Color, but
version?
really,
I might
Lydia?
have. I might have.
Oh God,
I was just
that's
thinking.
the worst.
I was just thinking about all the purple wallpaper, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, purple."
Yeah, no, you
So,
watched the colorized version.
I think I did, yeah. But it's okay. I've seen it a million times. But yeah, I think it's not going to reflect my feelings about this movie either. I usually try to rate things, you know, based on like how much I would recommend like a friend watch it. Like if I was talking to a friend about it, I'd be like, this one's probably like I'm gonna give it a 7, just to like split the difference of like the
The
nostalgia.
10 you want to give it and the 5 that it's worth? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Because like, well, I would say I was gonna rate it like maybe like a 6, but I have such a fondness for this movie that I want to give it a little bit higher. I really do love it. I think it's a good movie, and I highly recommend it. I very highly recommend it. But it is, it is what it is. It doesn't make much sense, and I have to be honest. So, if I recommend this movie to somebody, I'm gonna be like,
you have to pick who you recommend this to very carefully, because there are
Yes,
definitely going to
exactly.
be people that are like, "This is the most boring fucking movie I've ever watched in my life."
Exactly.
It's just a bunch of people walking around in rooms, and
Yeah.
a dude locking himself in a closet fucking 3 times.
yeah. For sure.
He talks tough, then locks himself in a closet. No, I'm gonna give it a 6. I'm gonna give it a 6. I like this movie too. I think it's fun. Like I said, I've watched it multiple times, so it's not like it's unwatchable or anything. I think it's solid. But there's just too many problems to give it anything higher. Like as far as the plot, the story, and it is very slow, and which is fine if it is building towards something, right?
Yeah.
It's fine if there's a slow
when
burn.
Vincent Price is on screen.
Yeah, but when he's not, it's rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, like if it's a slow burn, but the tension's mounting and you feel it, then those slow burns are worth it. But when it's this, where you never feel like anybody's in real danger,
Yeah.
and you're just kind of like, okay, you just kind of go meandering along, and there's the whole middle section is kind of like a meander, like you are just meandering. Everybody's sitting around in the parlor. You're just like, all right. The setup is killer. Stay the night in this haunted house, survive the night, and you get, X amount of money. It's a great setup. And it probably, honestly, if I were to remake this movie, I would, and this is going to be controversial, but I'd probably just get rid of the entire murder subplot. Like the entire marital murder subplot.
What would you do? What would you do? Well, instead? I don't know. Just have a ghost?
It'd be a ghost story. Yeah, if you have that same setup, you have the guy that's doing the thing doesn't think it's haunted, and he has stuff set up to kind of spook the people, and and then there's really ghosts, and then they have a real fucking problem.
And it's in a house and not an asylum.
Yeah, and it would kind of just streamline things, because the murder for the marital murder plot just is the hook of the movie, but it also creates so many problems and backs you into so many corners, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. I think we should remake this movie, guys. Just like low budget, let's just remake it. I've always wanted to remake The Bat.
The Bat.
Like just like with my friends, and just like have everybody, because I think that would be the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, this one we could totally make with 5 people in the cast,
and just kind of
walking around into a like flatly lit room.
Dude, I mean, that would be the fun part, would be like lighting it and like
making it look good and stuff. Yeah.
Making it look fun, and it would be funny.
So, that's House on Haunted Hill. Guys, it's time to Atkinize this one. Who would Tom Atkins play in House on Haunted Hill? Doctor, I would make him Lance.
The one that gets trapped in the walls?
Yeah, but the chick's all about him.
Yeah, and so it makes total sense. The doctor is already having like an affair.
He is, but he also
kisses Annabelle.
He does kiss.
Which I could see Tom Atkins doing.
Dude, which by the way, the kiss the kissing in the fucking 50s was just the best.
Mwah.
They always grab him by the shoulders, like pull him in. Ah. It's the best.
Yeah, no lip movement. Just pressing your chin against
Face
somebody
against
else's.
Ah. So
Very
yeah.
passionate.
So guys, it's my turn to pick.
Yes. 5 years
So
of
as you
picking
know-
movies.
So as you know, it is summertime,
Yes.
and nothing screams summertime like Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
So it's time for us to visit Jurassic Park. What do you guys think?
Hell yeah. I'm ready.
I think
Let's do it.
the Jurassic Park movies are all streaming on Peacock. Yep. Google Play, Fandango, Amazon, and Apple TV. Or you can own the 4K like I do. Because it's Jurassic Park, guys. You got to own that.
I have it
So
on
next week-
VHS.
I have it on VHS as well. I also have The Lost World over here.
Nice.
So next week, Steven Spielberg's 1993 classic, a summer popcorn horror adventure, Jurassic Park. So that's our show for this week, guys. It's our big 5th anniversary special. Thanks for tuning in and checking it out. Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on The House on Haunted Hill. Where do you rate this? Where do you guys lay on the ghost, no ghosts? Where do you lay on murder, no murder for the remake? Let us know what's going on. Tell us your opinion of this one. And we'll hit up some more William Castle films in the future, some more Vincent Price. Actually, we'll probably be hitting up Vincent Price, William Castle joints here in the future because there's a couple still to hit. But with that all said, be sure to comment down below. Suggest some more movies. Tell us what you want us to watch, and we will check it out. So until next week, for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I'm Jamie Hiles. Remember, if you're going to scream plenty movies.